application health in Dynamics 365 using Application Insights. My name is Alejandra Cabrales, and I will be your moderator today. Presenting for us today, we have Hemant Kumar, Kenny Salern, Jason Duplessis, Ajit Kotwal, Lynn Swenka, Michael Frugar-Pontoppidan, Vincent Angeloni, and Kevin Nguyen. Ajit, over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Alejandra, for that introduction. So Application Insights is becoming an increasingly critical part of the process to manage the health of your solution. We'll be looking for partners to help customers to adopt Application Insights, not just as part of the post-go-live operational phase of the project, but to also make it a core component of reviewing and optimizing solution health as part of the implementation process. And as such, we intend to support you by delivering a new series of tech talks on the subject, starting with this introductory session. We're also planning a few other things, such as improving the number of sample dashboards that we are providing. We're looking at doing other training and other learning materials that we'll be publishing. Please let us know via the chat window or via the Viva Engage page about any ideas you may have for us to do deeper dive sessions. There will be links in the presentation on how you can contact us. This agenda is designed to give you a good baseline understanding of the capabilities of App Insights across some of the Dynamics 365 apps and how you can use it. We're going to follow up with more guidance on all of the Dynamics 365 apps. Okay, so moving on to what is App Insights for Dynamics 365. For those of you who are not already familiar with App Insights, it covers monitoring and diagnostics of the system, as well as insights on user interaction. We do provide some out-of-the-box template dashboard samples that will allow you to get started immediately without having to write any code or do any further configuration. But you can also use these template samples and the app to define more custom-specific metrics and visualizations to help confirm good solution health or help diagnose issues using telemetry data, and especially to help you drive proactive issue detection and alerting. To share more on the how and the what, I'm going to pass you firstly on to Kenny. Kenny, over to you.
Thank you, Ajit. Just to give you a brief solution architecture overview of App Insights, I think this slide serves its purpose very well. So on the left side, first, what you will have is there's some data sources, applications, or the Azure platform itself, some of your infrastructure that you want to measure. But then for Dynamics, mainly it's going to come from a custom source. And those data sources are actually feeding data into Azure Monitor, because Application Insights is in fact an extension to Azure Monitor. So first off, the data ingestion will take place, and then so data will be ending up in your log analytics workspace, where then Azure Monitor keeps track of changes, traces, and your metrics and puts them into logs. And on the right side, what you'll see is actually what Application Insights provides is tools, if you will, to go and work with that data, right? So in those areas we see on the right, you can have, for example, the respond area where there is some configuration possible, where you can set up alerts and act upon your data ingested by your applications. There's also ways to visualize your data into workbooks or into dashboards in Azure Data Explorer using Power BI or any other tool to your liking. And you can also work with that data to integrate you can act and trigger logic apps from there and use this data to trigger any other import or export APIs. With that, I think we'll move over to Lane to talk a bit about LCS.
Thank you, Kenny. Good morning, everyone from Seattle. I'm here just for the next couple of moments to talk about Lifecycle Services and when a change is needed. Sometimes a change can be obvious on when it's needed. This is a picture of my daughter's shoes when she was just turning 3. And I was super excited about these shoes because she wanted to match her father. She wanted black and white shoes that matched Dad. And so we would have matching shoes and be the coolest kids on the block. But unfortunately, fortunately for me, her rate of growth has only increased. She's now 4 going on, I'd say 10. So, the solution, the shoes are not growing with her, right? They're getting to a point where she started to say, hey, these hurt when I put them on. And so, things start to get a little bit painful. Also, they may not be the coolest shoes anymore. I don't know if some of you realize, but there are now shoes that kids can buy that have skates. They have like wheels on them and they light up. And these shoes do none of those new things. And so they are maybe not keeping up with the times. And we also, lastly, but certainly not least, have a proactive monitoring and alerting solution. It will actually even send proactive text messages. That solution, her name is Mom, and she will tell us sometimes when it's time for a change. I think we can see Lifecycle Services has been around for over a decade. We've been using it with some of our on-premise ERP products, and we transitioned into the cloud. And some of the monitoring capabilities just are not keeping up with the needs of our customers. F&O is a growing business. We're seeing increasing app sophistication. We're seeing warehouse-only modes, offline mobile devices. Of course, all of the new integrations with Dataverse, Power Platform, and Copilot. Being able to monitor the holistic solution and not just one small piece of it in LCS is quickly starting to show its age and its lack of sophistication. And so as customers need increased visibility, increased monitoring capabilities, proactive notifications, near real-time alerting, these things just aren't in LCS. And so we're starting to look at how do we have a holistic solution for all of D365, which is what we'll deep dive into as part of this talk. And so if we can go to the next slide, hopefully I've started to sell you and open up the idea that, a change is needed. And so as we start to look at deprecating some of these capabilities from LCS and Lifecycle Services in general, where are these monitoring capabilities moving to? And hopefully you can see there's really one answer. It is App Insights. All of the searching, the querying, the performance metrics, the SQL insights, all of these things are moving to App Insights in time. And you'll start to see both message center notifications. So to your tenant admin, your Power Platform admin will get these notifications. You'll also see banners directly in LCS for when changes are happening. And we're being very careful. We're using our own insights to know which customers are using which app actions within the current LCS feature set so that we don't just turn things off that you're using. We've actually, in fact, already deprecated several things that had almost zero usage in a given month. So you'll start to see banners in the LCS product that tell you about this change and link you to documentation, of course, that we'll deep dive into here today. So with that, I think I will go ahead and transition next slide back to Kenny. Kenny, please take it away.
Thank you, Nate. So let's spend a couple of minutes to first talk about finance and supply chain management and to see what we have available today. So today, I would say there's 4 main type of telemetry that we send to Application Insights, right? So the types we use, the form nodes, are directly mapped onto page views. So it's the standard data model that Application Insights uses. So we map to the page views table. For exception information, so basically any error that happens in X++ that passes through the info log will end up in the exceptions table in Application Insights. So many of the tools that are available on App Insights itself. So for example, the failures tab and failures tooling is going to be available right off the bat. The other 2 types are custom events and custom metrics, where most of the telemetry that we will start sending out and that we are working on also today is going to be in custom events and custom metrics. That allows from any point in code, you can add your own instrumentation, which we are going to show you in a couple of slides. So first off, form nodes. I think one of the most requested features in the beginning was actually to understand like how are users experiencing form loading time in our application. So that's the first thing we actually introduced there. So you can see most used forms there, executions, how many times it is opened, by who and when, and you have your min, max, and average timings to understand how does it feel for a user to open specific forms. We also have a duration trend and activity IDs that we log. Those activity IDs can become important if you have an issue with forms loading slowly and you're not able to troubleshoot it. If you contact Microsoft support and pass in those activity IDs, we can fairly quickly actually go and troubleshoot and find out what's going on. The link below and the screenshot that you see is actually from an accelerated dashboard that we've already made available for you to download. We will show you in a demo in a couple of slides how to actually make use of that. X++ errors. So error information is also being emitted to Application Insights. So the important thing here is that not only error messages and information are provided, but also the call stack is included. So again, we have a accelerated dashboard that we have made available for everyone to consume, where you see things like summarization by error message or across time, where you can see how many errors are occurring in the system. And so you can basically go and query that. A third type is also a much requested one that we wanted to add here. We have an availability for you to configure slow queries reported by the AOS. So this is not directly coming from SQL, but by the AOS kernel, right? So that enables you to identify which slow queries have been executed, and also to get the call stack with that. That's one of the advantages on top of otherwise using the query store. We do have one recommendation here is, so one, you need a flight enabled to get that. And the recommendation here is to only have it in sandboxes, right? Because some environments that are very high transactional environments, if you enable these slow queries, you get a lot of telemetry, obviously, right? So sandboxes can be used during testing periods. And then additionally, on sandboxes, you have the ability to also connect to the query store to kind of have a power combo of two tools to troubleshoot slow query performance. This slide we wanted to just add. I think there's much to be said about adding custom telemetry, but the intention of this slide is just to give you a very quick idea of how easy it might be to add custom telemetry. If there is something that is not available that you do want to keep track, or ISVs who have certain processes that they want to monitor across their customer base, or if you as a customer want to extend the solution and also for your custom processes have some telemetry emitted, you can actually use this, and it's fairly simple. There is new documentation also published on this, but the crux of it is that you would just form a telemetry data contract, put in the fields and the payload that you want to emit, and then the only thing you have to do is actually call the telemetry logger and say, hey, track a metric or track an event, and the API will take care of it and log it to Application Insights. Just to give you one example, this is just for a customer who wanted some do-right telemetry and was able to put some custom code in place to send telemetry to App Insights, and then that way they were also able to quickly get a custom do-right dashboard in place. But let's start with a demo. This is kind of a 10-minute demo, but it actually shows you how easy it is to set it up, and from start to end, in those 10 minutes, you actually are able to fully configure it, have already telemetry sent to App Insights, and even import the dashboard and visualize it. So let's take a spin. In this demo, we'll show you how to configure your environment to send telemetry to Application Insights. Once we have configured our environment, we'll perform some actions and verify that telemetry is indeed flowing to Application Insights. And lastly, we will show you how to visualize this telemetry data from Application Insights itself. So let's start by ensuring that the feature is turned on. It is turned on by default, but just to verify, we go to feature management. Then we filter on monitoring. And there we see that the feature is enabled. So that's good to go. So secondly, to enable telemetry, so we will go to monitoring and telemetry parameters. And we start off on the environment tab. So first off, we will link our environment ID and link it to a certain environment mode. This is either a development, test, or production environment. So this allows us to send telemetry from multiple environments to one App Insights registry, which we will look at in a second. So first off, we need our environment ID here. We get our environment ID by actually moving to LCS or PPAC for the newer environments. We'll show you that in a second. When the environment is an LCS environment, you can actually see the environment ID here and copy it from there. If you have a PPAC enabled environment, then the environment ID will be accessible to our platform admin center. On the environment details, you will see the environment ID here. Moving back to finance and supply chain management, we can go to Application Insights registry. So now we can say which environment modes are we linking to which Application Insights registry. So this enables us to, for example, choose if we have a test sandbox, we will apply a certain connection string here to send the telemetry to Application Insights. So how do we get to this connection string? We can do this by moving to the App Insights instance, going to Overview, and then from here we have our instrumentation key and connection string. So we can copy the connection string from here and then configure this in finance and supply chain management. Once we have saved this, the connection has been made to the right Application Insights instance. Now we just need to configure and enable the telemetry that we want to export. For this demo, I'm going to enable the form run telemetry so we get page view information in our telemetry. Once this is done, we save, and that actually concludes the configuration to send your telemetry. Now let's open some forms just to ensure we have some activity. So let's go to, let's say, the sales order form. We're going to open the list page. From there, we're going to drill down. Then let's go back, do one more execution. And now I expect to see these form nodes at least to be available in the telemetry itself. So now, just to verify that telemetry is flowing, we will go back to our Application Insights instance. And we will first start off by going to the logs, which is the place where we can access the log analytics part and where we can actually query the telemetry data. So in the standard available tables, we are expecting to see some information in the page views here. So I select this. I will take the last 30 minutes, and I'm hoping to at least see some information already available. It does usually take a minute and a half for information to flow through, but I can already see that I went and configured the parameters. So I see this form already, and all of the raw data is visible here. You can use this to compose your push-to queries for triggering, for consulting the telemetry here, and you can write up the queries as you go. But there are, of course, better experiences to now visualize the telemetry that you have collected. So now to visualize what we have collected, there are actually two categories. So one is what Application Insights provides already out of the box as features in the portal. And second will be what other products we can use to visualize telemetry, such as Power BI or Azure Data Explorer. So in the first category, Application Insights already provides us a few things. Let me just show you two of those. So one would be if I go to users, for example, and yes, we'll agree to this. If I take the last 7 days of this environment, we see that at least some users were active. So that's one thing we can see. And if we get some more insights, we can get to some interesting things. So for example, if we go with, for some of these users, we can see, hey, show us the timeline. And here we can see when these users were online and how many minutes or what's the duration of their session. And then you can actually see what was executed within that. So let me take another one just to get some interesting data in. So here, for example, on January 13, this user was in there and was opening. I can see he opened the feature management workspace, default dashboard, and then some batch job form. So this is one way Application Insights provides you out-of-the-box visualizations. Another one would be if we go, for example, to user flows. This is also an interesting one where you can say, I want to see what the flow was that users were using to go through the application. So let me, for example, start with, if I want to know the sales table list page, what happens before and after. So if I do create graph here, I'll get some data to understand, okay, most of them in the sales table list page, they either started just a new session and directly entered the URL, or they came from the default dashboard. And most of them are, especially in this one, the sales table list page is typically started first, and then from there they move on to the details form. And this is how you can track users throughout the application. There are many other features in the portal available, but those were just two of them. Then let's move to the other category, right? So how can we start visualizing our telemetry in a meaningful way by using like dashboards and creating some reports out of this? We're going to use Azure Data Explorer to provide some visualizations of the telemetry we collected. So first off, we have created some dashboards already for you guys so that at least you can get an accelerated start, and you can just download these JSON files that we have created, and you can import that in Azure Data Explorer. In the GitHub repository we have for that, we will start adding more and more dashboards to this, but at least you can already find the ones we have today. And for each of those dashboards, there will be a description, as you can see, on how you can import this. It's just a matter of importing your JSON file into Azure Data Explorer, changing your data source URL and connections, and then you're good to go. So let us have a look at one of those. So as I mentioned, you can actually just create a dashboard by, if we go here, for example, to show you, you can just say new dashboard and create one and start from scratch. Or you can go and say, hey, I already have a JSON file and I want to import one, right? It's as easy as that. This is the one that we have provided by default. So let's go and have a look. If I would say, I'm just going to get some meaningful time range here. And immediately we can see the visualizations that we have created for you to see. So in the turn, this is just showing you what the form information looks like. So we can see what are the most used forms. We can see execution spread over time. And it really gets interesting when you can get like the form durations to understand, okay, how many times is this form opened and how long does it take? We also have some queries out of the box here to check whether this form has been slower or faster than the past weeks, right? So there's a trend line in here. And then also we can go until the detailed level of each form instance that was opened. So along with activity IDs, which is also very helpful to use if you have the need to create a support case, then at least you will already have the activity IDs to communicate to Microsoft. From this one, you can actually see also a timeline, and then you can understand if this form is always slow or if there is just some outliers in this. So that's how you can use Azure Data Explorer. If you want to start with these dashboards and you want to tune them to your liking, it's very easy to do because you can always go into editing mode and you can just change whatever you would like to change in these visualizations or in the query that is used behind the scenes. And that would conclude this demo.
Thank you so much. My name is Michael. I'm from the supply chain management team, where I, among other things, are managing all the warehouses that are running out there today. And I would like to talk about the journey we've been on this warehouse telemetry, because getting access to real-time telemetry is really a superpower. If you do not embrace this and think about how did we do this previously, then the best metaphor that I've come up with is, suppose you're operating a restaurant. Then you can now, with telemetry, you can actually go out and see how your customers are enjoying the food you're serving. Versus previously, without the telemetry, it's almost like shipping frozen goods. You can send it out and hopefully no one is complaining. But with telemetry, you can actually see what's going on in real life. So in the warehouse team, we have a lot of telemetry and we really enjoy it and we're visualizing them. And let me show you some of the things that we are looking at. And this same telemetry is now available to you through App Insights. If you just go to the next slide. One of the things that's super important in a warehouse is how responsive are the clients. So in a warehouse, the workers are walking around with some barcode readers and they need to be responsive. These are the mobile devices. So we can see how quickly they're returning. And we can see that over time, of course, in this case, we can see that only 0.45% takes more than 1 second to respond. That's like the number one support request we are getting. How quickly, what's the time on my mobile devices? And we can see that, of course. If you go to the next slide, we can also see which devices are being used out there. We can see various metrics on these devices. For example, the rendering speed on the devices. You can see that's the far right column here. So if you are to buy a new device, you probably would be looking for one with a faster rendering speed. So for example, the TC51 instead of the 55 would make sense. Just another data point on telemetry. Let's move on. You can also understand the battery health of your devices. Of course, it's no good if a worker during the day runs out of battery, so he needs to recharge the device. And here we can see a lot of different things. For example, that the average battery remaining when you're cradling the device at the end of the day is 44%, which indicates that everything is just fine here. You can also see that there are a few bleeps there. So perhaps there are some devices that are running out of battery fast, or perhaps you need a replacement, and you can do that proactively so you can keep the warehouse operational. In warehouse, there's something called a location directive engine. I don't want to go into too many details, but it's really the one that's figuring out where to pick and put items from, basically finding locations. And we get telemetry from this as well. Here we can see that for sales picking, that's by far the most used, which kind of makes sense. It's trying to figure out where to pick an item from, and it's super fast, which is great. So it's like 270 milliseconds. But we can also see that purge putting, basically when something comes into the warehouse, you need to put it away. That one takes more than 3 seconds on average. And we can then see that to find a location to place something, it's actually looking at more than 11 locations every time. So perhaps there's something that can be optimized on this. And you can see the second to last, the transfer received is even slower, but on the other hand, it's only used 62 times per week in this case. So it matters less, I guess. And what we are providing is, of course, all this telemetry directly in your App Insights. You just put a checkbox, as you saw in the demo before, and then you'll get all this information in your App Insights. But we're also providing an out-of-the-box Power App. So you can basically install this Power BI app and then point it to your App Insights store, and you will get all the visualizations I just showed you and many, many more. We have more than 30 events going live right now. And there's a link here on how to set all of this up. Over to you, Hemant.
Thank you, Michael. Here, in Dataverse, Application Insights integration with Dataverse enables powerful telemetry that allows us to monitor and optimize our systems effectively. Right? This includes insights into unified interface page loads, network requests, API calls, plugin executions, and SDK activities. Let's explore these data mappings in detail. Here's how telemetry events map to standard application insights schema tables. Right? For example, Dataverse API calls are logged in the request table, while exceptions from plugins or SDK calls go to the exceptions table. This structured mapping enables easy querying, analysis, and visualization in dashboards. By using this telemetry, we can monitor system health and gain actionable insights into performance bottlenecks or error trends. The right-hand side screenshot shows the logs area within Application Insights and the tables where you go to create them. Application Insights empowers us to monitor Dataverse by tracking key metrics such as performance, errors, dependencies, and user interactions. With insights into page loads, exceptions, and network requests, we can proactively address issues and optimize for reliability. Custom metrics like user interactions further help refine solutions. However, for compliance or detailed user action logs, tools like comprehensive auditing or admin activity logging are more appropriate, which we will discuss next. So while the Application Insights is ideal for understanding telemetry and operational performance, it should not be used for auditing or activity logging. For these purposes, Power Platform provides comprehensive auditing and admin activity logging features. These tools ensure detailed activity records for compliance and governance. You can find more details in the resources and the links shared here, this slide deck. So as with the FNO side, the standard telemetry, also which is available out of the box in Dataverse, offers valuable insights into operations like API calls and plugin executions. It might not encompass all the specific metrics crucial for your custom business logic. So to bridge this gap, Dataverse allows the implementation of custom telemetry using iLogger interface within your plugin code. For example, if you have developed custom plugin to handle complex business processes, leveraging iLogger enables you to monitor its execution flow, capture exceptions, and measure performance metrics specific to your logic. This level of detailed monitoring facilitates proactive issue detection and resolution, ultimately enhancing the observability and reliability of your system. To implement this, ensure that your Application Insights integration is enabled for your environment. Then within your plugin code, utilize the iLogger interface to write custom log events. So we have provided the link here where you can find more details on implementation. So let's move on to the demo.
Hi, the Dataverse Application Insights is available in Power Platform Admin Center. If you have admin rights, if you can go to admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com and click on Analytics, and here you can see data export. This will not be visible if you don't have admin rights. And you can go under data export and create a new data export package for Dataverse Diagnostics or Power Automate or Customer Service or Power Apps. So here we have within Dataverse, you have multiple options to choose what kind of telemetry you want to flow from Dynamics 365 environment to your Application Insights. And similarly, within Power Automate, we have Cloudflow runs, triggers, or actions. You can choose everything, or you can pick and choose what you want. Dynamics Customer Service is a limited preview right now, but we have a private lot of things including the unified routing diagnostics coming in private preview. If you are interested in private preview, please follow the links and email for subscribing to the private preview. We'll talk about Power Apps later in the Tech Talk. And once you follow this wizard and create the data package, the telemetry data will flow from your application, Dynamics 365 application to Application Insights resource. And there, to make it easier, we have provided plug and play dashboards, which can in this GitHub repository. And there are instructions on how to install it. all you have to do is download, click on download, and it will be downloaded. And once it is downloaded, go to azure.dataexplorer.com, and there you can go to dashboards and import dashboard from file, and click on the dashboard, imported downloaded dashboard, give it a name, and voila, it is created. All you have to do is update the subscription ID here, and it will ask you to select which database, and you should be selecting the database that your App Insights database here, right? And within App Insights, the database it's just a database name is App Insights name here, and the database will show up something like this, right? Like you have different tables like exceptions, page views, requests, traces, and dependencies. And you can, once installed properly, your dashboard will show up like this, and you can even look at queries and modify it to suit your needs. In addition to this dashboard, we have other dashboards in the same GitHub repository available for you to play with. And our team is working hard on creating other customer scenarios and trying to publish more dashboards which will be available in the same GitHub repository in the future. Thank you very much.
Yes. And we have all the resources that are available, published here, and it's available at the end also. And as mentioned earlier, if you want to be subscribed to private preview of customer service telemetry, please go to the mail, use this email.
Thank you, Hemas. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jason Duplessis. I'm the product lead for field service in our FastTrack team. I'm based out of the UK. So the good news is that users of Dynamics 365 field service applications can take advantage of all the rich telemetry that Hemas really shared for Dataverse and model driven applications, as well as some specific telemetry focused on field service offline sync scenarios. Let's have a quick look at some of those analytics capabilities that are available. So ensuring efficient user experience is really critical for delivering good service, specifically within field service scenarios. So as I mentioned, all of the standard model-driven and Dataverse telemetry for field service applies. So you can leverage it to maybe get into network information, to understand potential network issues or bottlenecks, page load performance, to optimize your pages so they operate effectively. We've also had some new UCI failure events that have been introduced, so you can understand if there are any client-side errors or JavaScript errors, or some issues potentially in your controls that may have occurred. But we've had a lot of requests from customers to additionally provide comprehensive data on the operations of the offline synchronization process, an offline sync dashboard. Because it's really important that process is successful, that's seamless, and also obviously performant. So we've got some new telemetry coming out in the product. The blog on that should be coming out very soon. The feature is GA, which will allow you to get more detailed telemetry about the offline synchronization. And we've actually built a dashboard, a sample dashboard, along with that, so that you can get a view of what the capabilities are. So let's have a little bit more of a dig down into how you would maybe set that up and some of the benefits. So admins can now use this telemetry to identify any challenges, monitor the offline telemetry, and as I said, optimize that offline sync performance. So some of the benefits, you get early visibility of issues, so you can test the offline mode, so you can understand if there are any issues with the synchronization, if you need offline profiles, maybe taking a bit longer, whether any errors occurring. You can do this as early as possible in the process. Obviously, we recommend using App Insights not just in production, but in your test environments and your dev environments. You can also use it to improve the performance of your offline sync. So two of the most common things that impact offline sync performance are query complexity and data volume. So the offline telemetry shows you which tables are regularly synced and how many records are being synced. And you can aggregate that by together or per user. You can also
fine-tune the queries to reduce volume while leveraging the existing OData endpoints to investigate slow-running queries that can be overly complex. This helps you to create an offline profile that's optimized for your performance sync experience. And then you can also use it to keep track of data changes. So you can monitor record volumes and sync duration to see how enhancements can impact your offline mode experience and as you add new business scenarios. This helps you to maintain a good performance and decision-making on offline as your business and use cases evolve. It was really simple to get the new mobile app synchronization actions. So within your standard telemetry where you enable the export, you now will see a new option under Power Apps for mobile app synchronization actions. So if you enable that, you get the field service mobile offline synchronizations. So this would apply for Power App Mobile as well. So I'm going to now just play a video for you where we'll talk through some of the features in the sample dashboard we provide. To start, we provide a summary overview of the sync process where you can filter for a specific date range or sync mode. The distribution of sync types tiles can help you understand the distribution of data sync types that users initiate. Excessive long-running synchronizations like forced or first sync may indicate a usage issue. In my case, primarily Delta and grid syncs are occurring, which is to be expected. The daily users doing offline sync tile can be useful to validate the volume of users making use of offline capabilities, especially where there's a mix of users using both offline and online profiles. In my environment, I'm the only user. Field Service mobile app gets updated incrementally to users through the relevant app stores. Each of the stores has a different release cadence, using the usage by app versions graph to identify the rollouts of an expected version across users. In my case, the Windows version is slightly behind my Android version, as these do have different release timings. Sync performance is impacted by various factors, including device type, network quality, application version, offline sync filter complexity, number of records, and record size. Use the data sync duration by sync mode tile being measured at the P95 time to get an overview of performance across all users, then diagnose further within the sync performance page. As you can see, I had an anomaly, a sync yesterday. The synchronizations can also fail for various reasons, including users canceling the sync or issues on the device, issues with network connectivity, and so on. Use the daily sync success rate tile to get an overview of the errors, and then use the sync error page to diagnose those further. As you can see, my success rate was between 40% and 73%. Let's draw into why that it may be the case on the sync errors. Lastly, the devices type dashboard shows the types of devices being used. So if we look at the sync errors page, you can access a dedicated page for synchronization errors. This page shows a summary as well as a timeline of synchronization errors for the Field Service mobile app in offline mode. Use these to identify the number, nature, and timing of errors. In this case, the only errors we're seeing were where the syncs were being cancelled. Sync performance is crucial for any Field Service mobile engineer. Multiple joins and related records can also generate expensive SQL queries. You can use the offline filter performance tile to understand the most expensive queries. Networking challenges can have a significant effect on the overall experience of users, and again, various factors influence that performance. Use the network connectivity tile to understand connectivity for all users or specific users. In this case, I've noticed that my latency is up to 1.4 seconds, which is very high. We would expect this to be below 150 milliseconds. Finally, use the average duration of sync types by device type tile to understand if there may be an issue specific to a device. In order to get the best experience for users, you need to ensure that you have devices that meet our
minimum and preferably recommended requirements. In my case, you can see that my Samsung A53, which only meets the minimum specifications, the sync duration is significantly longer. This could also be impacted by networking challenges. Very large tables can take a long time to download. Use the records on the device tile to make sure only the required records needed for the mobile experience are synchronized. Frequently changing records on the server can cause data to be downloaded to all engineers' devices regularly. Where possible, make sure that the offline filters restrict the data that is downloaded to only that which is required by the specific engineer in order to complete their job. Use records synced to see how many records are being synced over time. Downloading a large number of records and a very large table can impact download time and device storage. The offline filter should be configured to only download the records required by the engineer. You can use the payload size tile to see how much data is being downloaded. And finally, you can use the sync details table to drill down to the individual sync records per user to diagnose individual offline synchronization requests. So thank you very much. I hope these features will be useful. I think over to Kenny to talk about alerting setup.
Yeah, next we wanted to throw in a little piece on alerting setup. We mentioned in the beginning that when you have ingested your telemetry, you can also set up alerts to kind of act upon it, right? So we've prepared a very small video, like a 1 minute video thing, where we set up an alert. So yeah, you can kick it off. So here you can see we will, in App Insights itself, we can create an alert rule, and then we select a signal. This can be either a custom KQL query or one of the available signals. And in this case, we're going to just set up an alert that triggers when you have more than 5 errors over a past period of time. I think we're going to, you can preview here in the specific time range, and then you aggregate these errors. And you can specify the thresholds when you want the alert to trigger. And then next we will set up the action groups, like for example, an email group where the alert can be sent off to. So in this case, we will email a support team that we have configured. And when the alert will be triggered, then this group will get a email from Application Insights. Yeah. And then we can put some of the details on the email. So this is an example of an email. You can also trigger a logic app or anything else. And now when we create the alert, we'll see when the alert then would be triggered, how it actually looks like in Outlook. So this is the email we get from Application Insights with all the details. That there is something we need to go and look at. So yeah, that was that. It's a very quick demo just to show you the capabilities of alerts. There is more to discover here. So on to the next part. The last topic that we did want to talk about is a bit on the costing model and understanding the cost of Application Insights. So the costing model itself, I think we can actually spend an entire tech talk on that topic alone. So we have included the pricing calculator here and included a link on all of the various aspects of costing with Application Insights and Azure Monitor. But I think the main driver of the cost here is the ingested data into the log analytics workspace. So basically the data of your telemetry and the retention period of how long you keep that data. So we do have some best practices in terms of cost optimization with a few links that go with it. At the bottom, you'll find the actual link of the new documentation that we have put on MS Learn last week that covers actually all of the aspects. But first one would be to configure the right pricing tier for your storage based on your data volume, right? So there are different table plans. We've also included 2 slides, the next 2 slides there and on that part. But so you can go and consult those when we publish the tech talk. So the right pricing tier definitely will have an effect on the cost. And then also you can configure archiving and data retention. how long to keep data on your App Insights. That will make a difference in the costing also. We also recommend to set up alerting for high data collection. So if you have a certain forecasted amount of telemetry that you will be collecting, you can set up alerts to make sure that that you don't go over certain thresholds, right? And then get a notification of it. Same for the setup of alerting on the Azure Advisor cost recommendations. And then the last one is also an important one. I know it's a bit of a generic best practice here, but using configuration, sampling, and filtering are techniques where you can reduce collecting unneeded telemetry. Like configuration, what do we mean? Yeah, if you only do page views and not the exceptions. So basically only collect what you are actually using. And sampling is also something that can be configured on the App Insights instance, where you can say, hey, for certain types of telemetry, we don't really want to keep all of it. We want to sample some of these telemetry and filter out what we don't need. Yeah, these, I will not go into all the details here, but basically you have an analytics and basic plan and an auxiliary plan. There is in the link below, it's very well documented what the differences are there. So that's also affecting like how long the interactive versus the long-term retention is, etc. So that is documented in those links, and this is for you to find as a reference. Same here. So we also included this with a link to dig a bit deeper into kind of how long-term retention would work based on the different plans. And then basically you would have search results and search jobs basically to query the data that is in long-term retention. And if needed, that would get re-ingested if you need it again. But again, you can use it as a reference and go read upon on the documentation. And with that, I think we want to share some resources. So here on the field service mobile offline resources, you'll find some of the links what Jason was talking about, where you can read more on the field service part. And then we have produced some of the MS Learn articles. So on the warehousing telemetry, those were already available for quite some time. So the link is in this slide. And then for finance and SCM, we have actually published, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, we have published a new overview page with drill through links to different parts of our documentation that we have added. More is to come, but we have already published what we have today. Then, yeah, on the dashboard resources, you'll find the links of the different dashboards. I saw also a question in the Q&A. So this is the answer to that one. And prerequisites, it's a slide that we also put in for reference, what you would need to get started. And that's described here. So let's stay connected. We've also included all of the possible ways where you can contact us regarding this topic. So first of all, we have on the LinkedIn from FastTrack. So that's a known one, I would say. Then also, I think an important one is on the Viva Engage. So there is a group there where active conversations are taking place. We are also monitoring those. So very important resource. And if you want to ask questions or ideas that you want to suggest to the FastTrack team for App Insights, please use the email alias that you have there to reach out to us. I see there are a lot of questions posed in the Q&A section, so we'll try and go through them.
I think there's a lot of questions in the Q&A section, so maybe let me have a quick look, Kenny, if there's any that we can move from review to see if we can answer them. I think most of them we've answered. They've been asked in slightly different ways. I think one of the questions I see here is, what is the most effective method for providing feedback to Dynamics 365 F&O telemetry functionality? I think we just answered that in the previous two slides, right? So there is an email address that comes to a core set of FastTrack people. Or if there's nothing under NDA, you can go to the Viva Engage page and ask questions there, or provide your comments there. Again, if you have any ideas, thoughts on what else you'd like to see us cover through Tech Talks or some other means, please let us know. Again, use the Viva Engage or use the email address we provided in the slide deck.
There's a few that I see I can ask, kind of do quickly. So this is a feature license required? No, it is something that is in the platform. It will be available. No extra license needed to turn it on. And the other one was from Fabio, I think. Will it be possible to search by task name before, like before on LCS? So for example, slow queries. So yes, the event name will be the one that will differentiate telemetry from each other. So you can use that. And Gianluca also had a question on, is there anything like query store regressed queries report? Maybe not one-on-one, but if you get all of the slow queries, I think, you can write those KQL queries for those if you would like to. So you can kind of group and summarize in custom queries. But it's maybe a good idea to think about, yeah. But given with the recommendation to run it on a sandbox, I think you can still use the regress queries report itself instead of having to copy it. The Power BI report, is it available for telemetry? Asked by Valerie. Well, there is a Power BI app that was published by Michael's team on the warehousing app. We don't have another Power BI app for different parts of telemetry, but it might be something to think about, yeah. Is it possible to activate a flight for slow queries in a production environment? That's possible, but I think we'll need to have, there's a few things that we need to discuss with engineering there also, because it depends on like how high volume your environment is. We are a bit aware of a footprint, if you will, on that part of the telemetry. So we are always very careful with that. And we're also making some improvements to reduce our footprint there. The ideal way would be to do it in a copy of production, because you would have either the data or test in that environment. But it is possible, but we do recommend against it, to be honest, currently. The form loads measure, that's an interesting question from Dennis. What time form loads measures? So basically the time from when it doesn't do the browser time, fair enough. It is the X++ time from starting to initialize, like calling the menu item and initializing the form until the form run completed event. So it measures everything that would be in the initialization of the form, in the initialization of the data sources, and in running the query that gets triggered by the form node.
Yeah, I think, Kenny, we're a couple of minutes over. I suggest we wrap up and hand over to Alejandra to kind of close us out.
All right.